any channel. Channel is basically input and output in a new channel. So one person is responsible for getting the and gathering the news stories from different places, locations, and as well as agencies. Okay, and thinking for different source of news. Okay, one person is responsible is so this person who is collecting and gathering the information is called an input editor. Okay, uh, another person after getting all the information, one person has to process and one person has to pick the news stories from the pool of news stories. Okay, there may be a number of stories out of which the person picks which is important. Okay, that person is called output. So there are these are the stages. First, a news editor is the highest post in any news channel. So under him, the input and output editor will work. So again, some channels, input editor is also one person is added. It is called somebody is left. Okay, one person is called a planning editor. Planning editor is the person works as the same like an input editor, but is looking for a section of different stories. Okay, we will discuss his roles also. And same way, output editor is also one person, and simultaneously another executive producer. Executive producer is also works as the same like output editor, but he is given some tasks. So in the previous course also we discussed news channel not only runs on the daily news, it also broadcasts the news based programs, right? 24 గంటలు 24 hours they may not broadcast the news only. So in any given hour, first half an hour is dedicated to news stories, and the second half an hour is dedicated to news-based stories. Okay, news-based and feature stories, any updates, and magazine stories. These are comes under the news-based stories. Okay, are you following? So this is the persons involved in news production. Then this under news input editor also. So in the previous class also we discussed news reporters, bureau chiefs, regional coordinators, and district reporters, senior reporters, chief reporters, all are works under the input editor. So same way in the planning editor. So planning editor is the same role as input editor, but under planning editor, so feature writers, okay, and some travel arcs, special programs like a special if take any channel for example, so they have a news stories as well as news based stories. So this planning editor is responsible for news based stories. It may be entertainment news, weather news, or political debates. Okay, and particular, even if it is related to news only. So 24 hours channel has only news-based programs. So news are news-based programs. So this planning editor is the responsible. Same way under this executive editor, executive producer also is called executive producer. That means so these output editors mainly focus on news-based news stories, not news-based. News stories. And every half an hour, news is making a run order. Run order means the sequence of news which the producer has to telecast. The anchor has to read. The sequence of is decided by the output editor. Under him, again, bulletin producer will be there. The bulletin producer is the responsible for the particular half an hour news story. So these stories are prepared and fine-tuned. Copy editor also works under the output editor. Copy editor means once reporter send the copy editor will fine tune. He may correct the copy if there is a mistakes, or he may add something, or he may delete. Okay, he may enhance the copy also. Okay, whatever required for that particular bulletin. So that information is added by the copy editors, and video editors will edit, and the stories will be sent to the broadcast. Okay, these are the main four persons in the top layer. Under the news editor, these four people are responsible. Under them only, the camera department, production department, technical department, all are working under the four people. Okay, so for that, we'll share some PPT so that we won't miss anything. So under input editor, camera department, city bureau chief, we call this a bureau chief, regional reporter, city reporter works under the input editor. Planning. So if you combine this input editor and planning editor into one category, so these anchors, feature reporters, feature editors, script editors, coordinators, all are comes under the input editor. Basically, in our Telugu channels, only two positions, input and output. So they won't have any planning editor and executive producer. Okay, so these two people, input and output, will monitor the entire news channel. Okay, under output editor, shifting charges with the sub editors. Sub editors means whose duty is to fine tune or correction in the copy sent by the reporter. Okay, production assistants. So any production news requires production assistants means people working in a PCR, production control room. So one person has technically, they have a technical qualifications as well, news journalistic qualifications. So both work in the production department. So they have technical knowledge as well as journalistic knowledge. So that they also works under the output editor. And execute under the executive producer, video editors, production assistants, producers, news readers, PCR in charges, assistants, CG operators. They all are technical as well as journalistic in nature. Okay. What are their roles? So if you discuss individually for example, you may get an answer, a question in the examination. Who is the chief of the news channel and what is his role or responsibilities, roles and responsibilities. So the person is the responsible for the news channel is chief editor or news director. Okay, he is the head of the news channel. So management may be different. So management, for example, take any channel. Names one channel so that we can discuss. For TV9. TV9, the management is different. So under him, the news editor will work. So based on the organization or the management, based on their agenda, this news editor or news director will work. Chief, sometimes we call a chief editor also. Chief in editor in chief or chief editor. Okay, is the responsible. So he assigns the duties to this in any day, the given day. The first this input, output, executive and planning editors will meet together and discuss for the day, agenda for the day. So that agenda will be sent to the news editor. Okay, if they gets approval, so they go for the news collection, news gathering, and they broadcast for the day. Again, every day it's the routine task. So for that day, they have to decide the topics, which topic and which area they want to focus on particular day, and that news stories will be collected and processed and fine-tuned and sent to the broadcast. Okay, is the responsible, is the captain of the ship, like he is a all and soul responsible. And if anything is happened, the chief editor is the responsible. Even though he's not on the copy, is not the reporter who collects the, but he is the responsible. Okay. So decision, whatever the decisions taken by the management, is the person to communicate with all the staff members. Okay. So is also under him as again the people HR department or an account department also works under him, because the management gives the direction to the news editor. Under him, based on his suggestions and his instructions, the HR department will recruit, train the personals, right? Everything happens is the responsible. So management, we may not see the management who is management for this particular channel, but the face of the channel is news editor. Okay, so based on his ideas, and even sometimes if it's a political channel, political news, the management policy will be applicable. But other than politics, there are also a number of stories other than politics. Every news channel not depend only on political news. So there may be a number of stories, like human interest stories, entertainment stories, policies, and updates, environmental issues, number of stories, different segments. This will be decided by the news director. That means chief editor, editor-in-chief. Okay, and input editor's his role we also discussed. We discussed earlier itself, and output editor. So input is the person who collects the information, right? Who collects and assigns the duties to the reporters and get the information and different sources, even news agencies, even from the news agencies also. News agencies, so there may be like a PTI and Reuters, APTN, IFP. These are the news agencies. From that also, this input editor collects the news stories. Okay, and with the help of output editor, they decide which news stories as to broadcast. Even is the responsible coordinator with the district reporters. So again, so under input editor, there may be a people, again, regional news coordinators. Okay, based on the input editor direction, these regional news coordinators will direct the news reporters of the particular district. So for example, if you take Telangana district, so we have 33 districts. That out of 33 districts, 33 reporters will be there at the district headquarters. So one region is this 33 districts will be divided into regions. Like in the earlier North Telangana, South Telangana. So one part is looked by South part is handled by the one person, and North part is handled by the other person. Okay, another RNC, they call it the regional news coordinators. So these RNCs guide the reporters what type of stories has to collect, and the topic or the agenda for the day is conveyed to the reporters, so that the reporters can work on that particular agenda. For example, today, ED, the Kavita, MLC Kavita went to the ED office for interrogation or investigation. Okay, that's the story. Based on that, the channel will decide the agenda. What is the implications? What are the people response from the all over the state, in Telangana state? Anedi agenda ankondi, for example. So this agenda will be passed to the reporters. The reporters works on this topic only. ఆ రోజు ఏ టాపిక్ అయితే డిసైడ్ చేసిరో ఆ టాపిక్ వినే వర్క్ చేస్తారు. సో బేస్డ్ ఆన్ ఆ టాపిక్ ఏ టాపిక్ అయితే ఉంటుందో ఆ టాపిక్ మీద ఆ రోజు స్టోరీస్ అన్ని దే ఫైల్. Are you following?
Yes, sir.
So simple thing is, so input editor is the person who assigns the duties to the reporters. Actually not directly reporters. So input editor guides the RNCs. RNCs guides the bureau chief or chief reporters. Chief reporters again guides the district reporters. Under district reporters also there may be a stingers or contributors. Okay, from every corner of the city or state, they'll get the news. So all these news are stored in the center server of the news channel, and output editor will pick the important stories, and that stories will be fine-tuned by the copy editor. Copy editor sometimes rewrite or add or sometimes delete the content, and it will fine-tune, and the story will be made. So with the help of output editor, the story is being processed. Not only this, execute editor is also, so again, output editor is the person, right? So same duties will be done by the execute producer, but is more on specific tasks. See, for example, every half an hour they have news, and every another half an hour they have a news-based programs. These news-based programs content will be looked by this execute producer. Same way, in the input section, the later half an hour stories will be planned by the planning editor. So sometimes in a small channels, these both duties, input as well as planning, will be done by single person. Again, the executive producer and output editor role is handled by the only single person, that is the output editor. Okay. Not only this, there are a number of people working for the news channel. Or any channel is based on the news content is gathered by the news reporters only. So news reporter is the important source for the channel. Any reporter, so is the important for collection, gathering of the news. Okay, same. For example, if you take example of newspaper as well as TV, so newspaper reporter, without going to the scene, he can collect the news story, right? Just by telephoning to some nearest person. So, for example, accident took place at the Secunderabad. So the reporter sits at the office and he may call the that person who is near to the location, and that person goes and collect the information and send it to the newspaper. That newspaper is updated over the time, and next the late night they process and the news story is published on the next day. But in a news channel, anything happened, the reporter and camera person has to go quickly so that they can capture the visuals. For example, so there was an accident. So immediately the reporter as well as this camera person has to go and take the videos of surroundings. Otherwise, the evidence will be erased, right? So the traffic will be cleared and the police will clear the location. So you may not get any evidence of the accident. But in a newspaper, just by calling the police officer, what is the status or how the accident has happened. So he explains the details so that he can write the story. That story is published on the newspaper. But it is not possible in the television news channels. So for that, we need to go at the location immediately and shoot the visuals. Okay. And as the reporter also, you need to collect the information from the different sources like police and eyewitnesses, victims. Okay. Then you need to file immediately. So if accident happened in the morning, if you file it in the evening, nobody will watch the story. Nobody will interest in that particular story. But it is a newspaper, so you can publish in next day newspaper, right? So ఇప్పుడు యాక్సిడెంట్ అయితే ఇప్పుడే మనం న్యూస్ పేపర్లో చూడం, టుమారో విల్ సీ దట్ instead. But what is the difference between the news story published in the newspaper and television? So news story lo, newspaper lo, the details will be very high compared to television. The background story and description is very lengthy compared to news channel. News channel is the audio visual medium. ఇది మనం మర్చిపోవద్దు. So sometimes we need not to tell the story. By looking at the visual also we can understand what is the situation there అని మనకు అర్థమైపోతుంది సిచ్యువేషన్ ఆ వీడియో చూస్తే. సో ఫర్ దట్ we need not to explain everything, but in the paper we need to explain everything. We need to explain because the reader has to imagine how that accident has happened. Okay, that's the difference. Okay, so it is also important to shoot the correct visuals. If accident has happened or anything happened, the reporter has to alert the camera person to take this shot and take that shot so that the importance of the story will be recorded. That is the news reporter duty. The camera person is the same as the reporter. Both are working for a single story. So if both are alert, even though sometimes reporter may not see the correct angle, but this camera person is the eye to capture the different angles of the story. So sometimes what happened, the incident is happened, somebody, the reporter explains, reporter writes the story. And once you go back to the feed shot by the camera person, you may get the another angle. Okay, కొన్నిసార్లు ఏమవుతుంది, న్యూస్ స్టోరీ ఏదో యాక్సిడెంట్ అయింది అని some stories was published, telecasted. Once you go through again the footage, sometimes the reporter may not aware the what the camera person sees through his camera. Okay, based on the camera visuals or visuals shot by the camera person, based on that also the reporter may file the story a different angle. అంటే మనం ఒక యాక్సిడెంట్కి వెళ్ళినప్పుడు వి మే హ్యావ్ వన్ యాంగిల్, ఓకే బాస్ వచ్చింది యాక్సిడెంట్ అయింది, సో బిహైండ్ దట్ సమ్ ఎవిడెన్స్, విజువల్ ఎవిడెన్స్ బట్టి వీ కెన్ ఫైల్ ఇన్ అనదర్ యాంగిల్. అది దట్ ఈస్ ద పాసిబుల్ with the camera person ability. That is the camera person's ability. Okay, in every news channel channel itself is a visual, audio visual based, right? So without visuals no channel is okay. We can't tell a story, right? Another important person in a news channel is the sub-editor or script writer or copywriter also. We call him as a copywriter also. So is the person who fine-tune the copy sent by the reporter. And in the earlier also we discussed the person, for example, any accident, so the reporter filed one story and an accident. So sometimes this copywriter or sub-editor may link it with the another previous incident. Okay, because compared to reporter, sub-editor is the vast experience and also multiple sources. Because for example, Karimnagar reporter sends only one story about Karimnagar district. Okay, some accident, same story sent by the another district, like a East Godavari or West Godavari. So the similarities, if there is any similarities, okay, that will be linked by the sub-editor, because he knows the news from the different locations, different sources. Okay, that story will be sometimes he may add the story, or sometimes whatever the reporter sent, he may delete some part which is not fit into the bulletin. So sometimes he may add, sometimes he may delete the content. Okay, so his language also should be clear compared to a reporter. He has to fine-tune the language wise, and you need to look into the visual So based on the visual also, you need to write. Visual means video what shot by this camera person. A story, we can identify the different angle for the story also. What happened in when YS was the Chief Minister of United Andhra Pradesh, some meeting happened at Karnool or Kadapa, I remember. So what happened? There was a chaos in the meeting. So that part is covered by the only particular channel, ETV. Okay, every channel has telecast about the meeting and the speech of the Chief Minister, but the camera person who showed the visuals, the chaos, some disturbance in that disturbance is captured by the reporter. Sorry, this camera person. So the story for the day was that chaos only, because he has a different perspective of what the other person saying. So this copy editor or sub editor look into the details of the particular visual, and he may write or he may write the story in a different angle. That flexibility is there with the sub editor. Okay, sometimes what happens, so the reporter may be in a far distance. He may not able to write the story and send it to the desk. So just a copy editor will call the reporter, and whatever he says, based on the input given by the reporter, he will frame the one story and file. అర్థమవుతుంది కదా, ఫోన్ చేసినా కూడా ఫోన్ విత్ ఫోన్ ఇన్పుట్స్ విల్ రైట్ ద స్టోరీ బేస్డ్ ఆన్ సమ్ ఇన్పుట్స్ given by the reporter. He may write the entire story. Okay, that is the duty of the sub editor. And we do another part. So the copy part, the reporter part will be edited and corrected by the copy editor, right? So same way, camera person also sent the visual, right? So in a television copy as well as video will be sent at a script and video. Script part will be looked by this copy editor, and that video part is looked by this video editor. And with the both are working together for a single story, even though the perspective is different. So the editing part will be done by the editor. Not only this, these are the actually whatever persons we discussed, they are important person. Every channel not only works on these input, output, planning, and execute editor, reporters, copywriters, and editors. So there are a number of people working in the background also, like a producer, floor managers, coordinators, graphic designers, teleprompter operators, news readers, voiceover artists. There are number of people. Again, even office boy is also important to run smooth functioning of the news channel. Okay. Because they need to pick the file from one person to another person, or we can distribute the news to copy to cooperators. Okay, this office boy is also important to smooth functioning of the news channel. So again, the very important task is, so we have a news editors, input, output, planning, and executive. But how do you get the story ideas and news planning? So in the beginning also we discussed, every day morning, every day in the beginning hours, early hours of shift, they discuss, sit together and they discuss the agenda. Okay. In the beginning also we discussed in the morning itself, the planning editor, input editor, output editor, executive editor, and even a news editor also sit together and decide for the day. So that idea is agenda. That is called agenda. Agenda will spend to the reporters every day morning. It is happening because they have to think different from the other channels, right? Then only it will survive in the market. and they need to get different stories. Even though some stories, feature stories, will be sent by the reporters. Some stories are kept for the lateral use because, for example, innovative agriculture methods used by the farmer in a remote Adilabad district. That story may not be fit into the today's news bulletin. ఈ రోజు మనకు అది టైం లేదు. We have a political news today, big news updates, everyday updates. Every 10 minutes there was an update about BRS MLC in a ED custody, and that every day, every 10 minutes they are updating. So you may not find the space for this, the farmer who is the innovative agriculture techniques. So that story will be kept in the story bank. And whenever there was a space, someday it's called a dry day. So whenever there was no stories, no political updates, that time the story bank stories, whatever kept in the story bank, they can use. అది ఫార్మర్ ఇన్నోవేటివ్ మెథడ్స్ అనే ఫార్మర్ గురించి ఇన్నోవేటివ్ మెథడ్స్ అనేది రేపైనా వాడచ్చు, ఎల్లుండైనా వాడచ్చు, అండ్ టుడే టుమారో ఆర్ డే ఆఫ్టర్ టుమారో ఆల్సో వీ కెన్ బ్రాడ్కాస్ట్. It has no time limit. But the CD and this politics has a immediacy under it. It's called immediacy. Then only immediacy, the one of the news value of the news value is immediacy. And anything happened, that should be telecast immediately. If you wait for the some time, so for example, ఈ రోజు కవితను అరెస్ట్ చేశారు అనుకోండి, సో ఇమ్మీడియట్లీ వీ నీడ్ టు బ్రాడ్కాస్ట్ ద స్టోరీ. లేదు నేను రేపు టెలికాస్ట్ చేస్తా, లేకుంటే ఎల్లుండి టెలికాస్ట్ చేస్తా అంటే నో బడీ విల్ వాచ్, ఎందుకంటే ఆల్రెడీ అవుట్డేటెడ్. సో స్టేల్, ఇట్ ఇస్ కాల్డ్ స్టేల్ న్యూస్. సో అది రీజన్, because immediately some stories have the immediacy, some stories may not have this time limit. అంటే ఇప్పుడు ఫార్మర్ గురించి అనుకోండి, సో ఫార్మర్ గురించి ఈ రోజు మనకు టైం దొరకలేదు, సో వీ కెన్ టెలికాస్ట్ ఇన్ టుమారో ఆల్సో ఆర్ డే ఆఫ్టర్ టుమారో ఆల్సో, ఈవెన్ దో వీ కెన్ వెయిట్ ఫర్ 1 week. సో దట్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ స్టోరీస్ విల్ బి హ్యాండిల్ బై మనం ఇంతకుముందు ఇన్ ద బిగినింగ్ ఇట్ సెల్ఫ్ వి డిస్కస్డ్ ద ప్లానింగ్ ఎడిటర్. ప్లానింగ్ ఎడిటర్ అంటే అండర్ ద సేమ్ కేటగిరీ యాజ్ ద ఇన్పుట్ ఎడిటర్. ప్లానింగ్ ఎడిటర్ ప్లాన్స్ ఫర్ దిస్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ స్టోరీస్. ఇప్పుడు ఇన్పుట్ ఎడిటర్ ఏమో మెయిన్లీ లుక్స్ ఫర్ దిస్ పొలిటికల్ హార్డ్ న్యూస్ స్టోరీస్. తెలుసు కదా, హార్డ్ న్యూస్ అంటే పొలిటిక్స్, యాక్సిడెంట్స్, హార్డ్ స్టోరీస్. బేసికల్గా కమ్స్ అండర్ ద పాలిటిక్స్, ఈ క్రైమ్, violence, this type of stories comes under the hard news. Hard news stories handled by the input editor. The soft news stories like entertainment, this type of human interest stories will be handled by the planning editor. Okay, again the planning editor, whatever comes from the planning editor, that will be handled by the executive producer. Okay, whatever comes from the input editor, that will be handled by the output editor. Sometimes, again, I'm telling, the input and planning editor as a whole works as a one person. Okay, both responsibility taken by the one person. Same way, output and executive producer role is taken by the one person. Okay. So this story bank, whenever there is a time, so they can broadcast. So generally, what are the important stories? So first we need to have an idea, kada? If you want to get a story or write a story, first we need to have an idea. So how we get the idea ante while brainstorming. So by keenly observing the surroundings or observing the situations. So that way we can file a story. Okay, and ఇంకొకటి this hard news stories. Hard stories అంటే it's a cost effective because any, sorry, for example, Delhi incident, ఇంకా మనం తీసుకున్నాం కవిత incident. So for that, just a camera person and reporter has to wait and shoot and different angle. So adi we can send a 1 hour feed. For example, BRS activists are protesting అనుకోండి. We can show it for a 3 minutes, 2 minutes, or 5 minutes. But in a soft stories like features, so for 3 minutes or 5 minute story, we need to record number of sometimes hours of feed. For that, we need to take different angles, different. Again, in the hard stories, so they may not use the different effects. Okay, music and effects and the cut to cut, just whatever comes, and they fine tune and send it to, because their immediacy is the important. Immediately, we need to broadcast. But in a feature, so it is a time taking, and they use different editing techniques, music, background, or sound effects, everything they use. Editing techniques also they use. Okay, it's called. So if it is as a self life, they can be stored in the story bank. Okay. So, panel packaging. Packaging means, what is the packaging? Packaging a newspaper, a new channel. The packaging is, so for example, so Kavita incident, if we take a Kavita story this day, so first ED point of view, and Kavita point of view, and the party leaders are we are related to that, even political analysts. So we'll get all this from different angle and make it a single story. That is called, see, whenever you watch the television, you will see anchor reads the intro and someone is explaining in the background. That is the voiceover. Through voiceover, somebody is narrating through a voiceover, and in the middle of the story, some person will appear and will explain. Maybe it's a political person or analyst or the person related to that particular story. So this everything is planned and make it as a single component. That is called a package. Okay. For that, in the beginning, they write the intro read by the anchor, and the corresponding story will be played.
Sir, okay. Sir, Kavita issue, you are saying that, is she culprit or something? Like...
Yeah, we don't know exactly what will happen. We have to wait and see.
But something is there, fishy, so her name came out like that.
I don't know.
Because if nothing is there, unnecessary name will not come out, I think.
Maybe true. It's also true. పొగలేంటి సరే అంటారు ఏంటారు అగ్లేందే పొగరాదు అని సంథింగ్ ఉండొచ్చు. బట్ వీ డోంట్ నో. We are not the judges, or we are not involved in that particular story.
But we are watching the news continuously, so we should have some idea.
Idea, because it's also that is called. So whenever you watch certain type of stories, you can conclude that okay, this is happened. అంతే కదా, దానికి ఒక థియరీ ఉంటుంది.
But there was a news that BJP.
It comes under the cultivation theory. It's called cultivation theory, because if you are focused on a particular topic, every day you are feeding some stories, different stories, and she's a culprit. One day you will agree to okay, she's a culprit. That's it. So that is called a cultivation. And whether even if it is this person is a nice guy, every day you will get a feed. So this person is a nice guy, this person is a nice guy. So one day you will realize Okay, this person is
everything is in BJP hands. If she will move to BJP, I think everything will be closed. I think.
So that is a political
Yeah, that is
game.
political.
Okay, so that is what at a shelf life. The story has a shelf life. So ఈ రోజు కవిత స్టోరీని we can't broadcast tomorrow because అది సెల్ఫ్ లైఫ్ దానికి ఇమ్మీడియసీ ఈవెన్ ఇట్ చేంజెస్ ఇన్ మినిట్స్. సో ఇప్పుడు ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ స్టోరీ ఇస్ రిటర్న్ లైక్ కవిత ఈజ్ టేకెన్ ఇన్ టు ద కస్టడీ అనే స్టోరీ ప్లే అవుతుంది. ఇమీడియట్లీ ఇఫ్ ఈజ్ రిలీజ్డ్ అగైన్ వీ నీడ్ టు చేంజ్ అప్డేట్ కదా. దట్ అనదర్ పార్ట్ కవిత ఇంట్లో తీసుకెళ్ళి ఆఫీస్ తీసుకెళ్ళి అనేది స్టేల్ అయిపోతుంది స్టోరీ, రైట్? అగైన్ మళ్ళీ బయటకు వచ్చిన తర్వాత ఆమె ఏం మాట్లాడింది అనే దాన్ని బట్టి అగైన్ వీ నీడ్ టు రైట్ ద స్టోరీ. సో ఇది కమ్స్ అండర్ ద హార్డ్ న్యూస్ అండ్ ఇమీడియసీ అండ్ దీనికి షెల్ఫ్ లైఫ్ తక్కువ ఉంటుంది. సో ఇఫ్ యూ ఆర్ రైటింగ్ ఫర్ ఏ ఫీచర్ స్టోరీస్ ఎప్పుడైనా చేయొచ్చు. నేను కేరళ టూర్ వెళ్ళాను అనే స్టోరీ అని చేసాను అనుకోండి, కేరళ టూరిజం మీద ఒక ప్యాకేజ్ చేస్తున్నాం. సో అది ఈరోజు మనకు టైం ఉంటే ఈరోజు చేయొచ్చు, లేకుంటే రేపైనా చేయొచ్చు, లేదంటే నెక్స్ట్ డే ఆర్ ఆఫ్టర్ 15 days ఆల్సో వీ కెన్ బ్రాడ్కాస్ట్. అది ఛానల్కి ఉన్న ఫ్లెక్సిబిలిటీ. అండ్ దే హ్యావ్ ఎ నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ స్టోరీస్ ఇన్ ద స్టోరీ బ్యాంక్. స్టోరీ బ్యాంక్ లో దేర్ ఆర్ కొన్ని, ఈవెన్ దో దే స్పెంట్ నంబర్ ఆఫ్ అవర్స్ ఫర్ వర్కింగ్ ఫర్ పర్టికులర్ స్టోరీ. అంటే హ్యూమన్ రిసోర్స్ దే స్పెంట్ నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ అంటే హ్యూమన్ రిసోర్స్ దే స్పెంట్ ఆన్ one particular story, but at the end the story may be broadcast or not. అట్లా దాని నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ స్టోరీస్ ఉంటాయి అట్లా స్టేల్ అయిపోయేది. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఒక స్టోరీ చేసాము, దాన్ని 15 days 1 month 2 months దాకా వాడలే అనుకోండి, ఓకే, అది స్టేల్ అయిపోతుంది. అంటే నోబడీ విల్ ఇంట్రెస్ట్. ఇన్ ద మీన్ టైమ్ సమ్ అదర్ ఛానల్ అదర్ న్యూస్ పేపర్ దే విల్ పబ్లిష్ ఆర్ బ్రాడ్కాస్ట్. అప్పుడు మన దగ్గర ఉన్న స్టోరీ స్టేల్ అయిపోతుంది. Sometimes what happens, for example, innovative methods adopted by the farmer in Adilabad అనేది ఒక స్టోరీ అనుకోండి ఎగ్జాంపుల్. ఓకే, ఆ స్టోరీ మనం విల్ గ్యాదర్ ద ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ అండ్ మేడ్ ఇట్ as a package and we'll kept it in the story bank. Last 50 days we don't have any time for that particular story, soft story, so we kept it on the story bank. Suddenly another newspaper write the story and a different angle anukondi, and mana angle, so reporters may have different angles, right? So another angle lo story they written in the newspaper. Immediately what happens, this news channel realizes, okay, this has a importance, so they will pick up that story and broadcast for that day. అట్లా అవుతుంది సార్ చాలా సార్లు. అంటే నోబడీ కేర్స్ అనుకోండి, అందరూ దాన్ని పక్క పడేస్తారు. ఇఫ్ సంబడి పిక్స్ అండ్ ఎవ్రీ ఛానల్ విల్ పిక్ ద సేమ్ స్టోరీ. ఓకే, ఇస్ ద ఛానల్స్ అబ్జర్వేషన్. ఓకే, అండ్ ethical implications. So these are the basic techniques. So if you field techniques and DS, there are so when you want to cover news stories, two options we have it. Two options. One is electronic news gathering, and other one the reporter collects the information and send it to the line at a wired service. For example, earlier for example, there was a story in Karimnagar ankondi, and they need to record at the location and come back to the Karimnagar, and from the office they need to send it to the Hyderabad. That was the process earlier. Okay, now with the help of this 4G or 5G, just in the location itself, just shoot with the camera and directly connect to the server from the Hyderabad, and directly the camera feed will be sent to the Hyderabad servers. So need not to go to the Karimnagar headquarters and send it to the. Earlier DSNG and OB1s are used. DSNG ఒకటి ఉంటుంది, ఛత్రి వేసుకొని పెద్ద అంబ్రెల్లా టైప్ ఉండి వ్యాన్. If it is a small one, that's called a DSNG. If it is a OB van, outer broadcasting van, so in the outer broadcasting van everything is inside, like a switcher, the person, producer, the direct feed will be sent to the channel, and channel will directly broadcast everything. For example, OB1 ki I will give an example. For example, there is a debate. So in the recently in the Munugod elections, then one debate conducted in the function hall, right? Do you remember? I think for that they use 4 or 5 cameras set up. So OB1 will be sent to the location, and the online editing, switching, it's called a switching is done in the location itself, and the clean feed will be sent to the channel. Ante for example 4 కెమెరాలు పెట్టారు, 1 camera, 2nd camera, 3rd camera, 4th camera అనుకుంటే. So 4 cameras are connected to the OB1. In the OB1, one person, technical person, producer will sit and they select the shots from different angles, and the output will be sent to the channel. Ante sent to the channel in the Hyderabad. In the Hyderabad, they will direct it to the air station and they broadcast. That is possible with the OB1, outer broadcasting van. This DSNG idemoutundante, just they will shot and send it to the channel headquarter, and the headquarter they will process, and they will make it as a package or any type of content, and they will broadcast. This is another type of idi OB1 ki. And field production kundu EPFE, electronic field production, ENG, electronic news gather, ENG and EAP. The ENG and EAP is, so you are directly go to the location and shoot and process and send to the main headquarter. That will be another process. Every story is collected in the location and come back to the headquarter and process and broadcast is the another process. 2 process will be, but in the EAP, electronic field production, it requires a human resources. అంటే అక్కడికి వెళ్ళి అక్కడ మన OB1 తీసుకెళ్ళి టెక్నీషియన్స్, ఇంజనీర్స్, రిపోర్టర్, కెమెరా పర్సన్స్ అందరం అక్కడికి వెళ్ళి దే లొకేషన్ ఇట్ సెల్ఫ్ we need to shoot and edit and send it to the headquarter, the channel headquarters, channel location పంపించాలి. That is the possibility with the ENG. But what is the advantage with the ENG and EAP? So immediate is the, so live jaragangane we can switch. Even it is the Murugod also, just live jaragangane we can switch and send it directly to the headquarter, the channel. అది అడ్వాంటేజ్. అర్థమైందా? ఇది అంటే OB1 అంటే మనం అక్కడే మొత్తం సెటప్ అంతా చేసి ఎవ్రీథింగ్ ఈస్ డన్. ఈవెన్ న్యూస్ రిపోర్టరు అందరూ అక్కడే ఉంటారు, ఈవెన్ యాంకర్ కూడా అక్కడే ఉంటుంది. అండ్ వాట్ ఎవర్ ఇన్పుట్స్ అంటే డిఫరెంట్ యాంగిల్ తీసుకున్నంత డైరెక్ట్లీ దే సెండ్ టు ద ఛానల్ హెడ్ క్వార్టర్, అండ్ ఇన్ ద ఛానల్ డైరెక్ట్లీ దే ట్రాన్స్మిట్, దే డైరెక్ట్ ఇట్ టు ద ఎయిర్ స్టేషన్ నుంచి మనకు ఇళ్ళగా అంటే ఇంటికి వచ్చేస్తుంది డైరెక్ట్. అంటే నో కరెక్షన్ విల్ బి యాడెడ్. But if it is reporter collection అనుకోండి, reporter has to go and take bites and different angles and come back to the channel. And come back to channel means they need to send it to the channel and headquarter. And in the headquarter, copy editor will write the copy and editor will edit, and the same process will take. So, but the advantage is in the field production, everything collected from the field and the location itself, everything is done. The final product is done at the field itself, and that product will be broadcast. Here product is a package. Product and ఏమొస్తుంది కంటెంట్ టీవీలో ఒక స్టోరీ. If it is a manufacturing అదేలా product అంటే ఒక item will get an item. Here in the broadcasting news channel, so we'll get a story. The entire story will be come from the location itself. That is the another type of. And what are the, so what is the breaking news? Do you have any idea what is the breaking news? So every day I will see breaking news. So breaking news is every day this in the beginning itself discuss. One core team sit together and decide for the agenda అని మనం ఒకటి అనుకున్నాం కదా. ఒక నలుగురు కూర్చొని ఆ రోజు ఏమేమి ఛానల్స్ ఏమేమి స్టోరీస్ చేయాలో డిసైడ్ చేస్తారు. Based on that, the stories will be prepared. First
Sir,
story, this.
Sir, breaking news means something which comes all of a sudden.
Yeah, all of a sudden. But what is the breaking means?
అంటే ఆ రోజుకి లిస్ట్ కానిది, ఆ రోజు ఏ షెడ్యూల్ ప్రకారం కాకుండా సడన్ గా వచ్చేది.
So they have a run order. So it's called a run order. They have a plan. So first story, this, second, third, fourth, and 20th story, this one. They prepared one run order and they planned for the bulletin. All of a sudden, something news, important news comes. This 20 stories list will be all of a suddenly that story enters into this list, and the remaining story will be discarded. అంతే కదా, 20 stories ki half an hour, for every half an hour there may be 20 stories, different stories. After 10th story, all of a sudden the breaking news enters, which breaks the sequence. That is called, which breaks the run order. అంటే run order disturb చేసి it enters, and the remaining time will be occupied this breaking story, important story. That is called a breaking news. Even in the ticker also, scrolling ఉంటుంది కదా, scrolling all of a sudden some ఏదో స్క్రోలింగ్ అవుతా ఉంటుంది, ఆల్ ఆఫ్ సడన్ బ్రేకింగ్ న్యూస్ అని ఎంటైర్ ఇట్ కవర్స్ ఎంటైర్ ద స్క్రీన్, రైట్? అండ్ ద ఇంపార్టెన్స్ ఆఫ్ ద న్యూస్ విల్ బి డిస్కార్డెడ్. నెక్స్ట్ స్టోరీలో అగైన్ దే కమ్ బ్యాక్ టు ద బ్రేకింగ్ స్టోరీ, అంటే రిమైనింగ్ స్టోరీ అంతా దే డిస్కార్డ్. సమ్ టైమ్స్ 5 minutes స్టోరీ ప్లే అవుతుంది అనుకోండి, జస్ట్ 1 minute స్టార్ట్ అయింది, అవుట్ ఆఫ్ 5 minutes suddenly once breaking news comes into the picture, the remaining 4 minutes story will be discarded, and they focus only on the breaking news. That will happen in a news channel every day. Okay, this is so all about news personals and persons involved in a news production, news structure, actually news channel structure. So in the next class we'll discuss the technology, digital technology, intelligent technology. What are the technologies? Basically, they are cameras, microphones, lights. They discuss in the next class, tomorrow class. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.